Hello, welcome to Sheepdog Says. I'm Sheepdog and it's a bit hot today. I'm on my own with the kids and everyone's a bit hot and bothered. The baby won't settle, so if this is a very choppy episode, it's because I keep having to pause it. If you hear lots of background noise, it's because I keep having to pause it. I'm hoping that this will be a clean run. I've already scrapped 2 or 3 attempts because my dog keeps being annoying and the baby keeps worrying himself in the heat, and my kids were talking so loud through the baby monitor that I couldn't hear a word they were saying. I could hear every word they were saying, sorry, and couldn't hear myself think. Bless them. They're only having a conversation about whatever they were watching. But it's funny, actually, because what inspired the topic was this kind of thing. When I was a kid, my mum was the master of saying, if you don't do this, this will happen. And it would never be something like awful, like I'm going to wallop you or something crazy like that. It would be like, if you do this, some magical, impossible thing will happen, you know, that will affect you in ways that you're not happy with. The example that comes to mind first was her perfect control over stopping us from peeking or hunting down gifts before our birthdays, trying to seek out gifts that our family had given us for Christmas. Obviously, we had Santa and the Tooth Fairy to keep us in check, like all kids do. But in this scenario, it was if either my auntie or my nan or even my parents on my birthday had bought me a gift and we saw it before our actual birthday, we were told it would turn to dust. That it was dust if you saw it, it was a bag of sticks or a lump of coal if you were naughty. I think the lump of coal and the bag of sticks are quite common. You know, all kids get told they're going to get something like that. But the dust thing, we were petrified. We lived in fear of accidentally seeing a gift and it being turned into dust before our eyes, opening the box and getting dust. I remember it must have been 6, maybe 6-ish. And it's my sister's birthday 3 days before mine. I'm the 21st of August, she's the 18th of August. That's always been a weird one because obviously when she was born, I was 2. I remember, it's one of my earliest memories, going into the hospital to visit my mum, and she gave me a He-Man toy as if to say, like, look what your sister brought you from the womb, which for years I believed, honest to God, I believed that she brought this He-Man toy out with her. It's only as I grew up and knew that babies come from inside the mother and there's no toy shops in there and they don't grow He-Man toys in there, that I kind of pieced it all together. But she'd convinced me that my sister had bought me this toy, which was a great tactic for making me like her off the bat, because I was like, good taste, little kid, that's awesome, I love He-Man, how did you know? But going back to the present thing, it was always, I mean, and again, looking back, even more genius, because she probably got me that for my birthday, which was a couple of days later, and probably just thought, you know what, grab one of those early presents. Now, you'd have thought, I'd have cottoned on early again, that didn't turn to dust, even though I saw it. But I think it was my 5th or 6th birthday, and I had to help my parents get some presents out of the cupboard to bring downstairs for my sister's birthday. And I remember reaching through the cupboard, going through it, and there was a Sega Master System there. And obviously my thoughts of it was just sheer excitement. There's my first ever console, just sat there in a box. I remember asking my parents if I could have it early and them just laughing at me, like as if, you know, it's your best present, you're not going to have that one early. But then I was petrified for days, thinking that I was going to open it and it would be dust because I'd seen it early and I'd, you know, come across it. It wasn't until maybe I was about 9 that I dared to rip the corner of a present and see what it was and risk it. I think my mum's friend brought as a present round a little board game. It was like an Inspector Gadget game or something like that. And I tore the corner off, saw what it was, put it back in the pile a different way around with the bit covered up so you couldn't tell that I'd taken the paper off. And then when I opened it and it wasn't dust, I thought, ha, I knew it. It was lies all along, you frauds. I didn't really abuse that power from then on at all. I was always still good. I just waited. I think I used to be very much one of these people who always wanted to know what they were going to get. I'm like this now. I always ask for a specific list of things, and I'm not expecting everything off that list. I'm kind of thinking to myself, if there was an unlimited budget, these are the things I want. But I'm always a bit like, stick to the list there. I'm expecting things off the list. Not in a mean, expecting, demanding kind of way, just more of a, I know all my eggs are lined up. I know that it'll all fall into place over time. I don't know when I'm going to get what, but it's all great that they're there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So when people don't do that, it freaks me out. It freaks me out massively because I start thinking, do I like this? What are my thoughts about this? Do I look grateful enough? Am I kind of joyous enough to show that I'm happy about what they got me? Do I like it? Am I happy? And then I start second guessing and going around in circles, and it drives me nuts, because then I'm like, am I overstating it because I'm not really that into it? Or am I understating it because I'm not being joyous enough about something I really like? I'd much prefer knowing in advance so I can think about it, plan it, decide what I'm going to do with it. I feel like I don't make the most of stuff if I don't know in advance that I'm getting it, I suppose. That wasn't what this was supposed to be about. Anyway, my mum's lies were always very good at just stories, should I say. Lies sounds harsh. Stories always kept us in check and kept us second guessing, or I'd think, well, I don't want to know because I don't want it to turn to dust. I remember we used to obviously lose teeth, put them under the pillow, tooth fairy, give money, and deciding one day that I think we were breaking up, we were rubbing something out and a rubber fell apart, and they all looked like the, I can't remember what they're called, the pointy teeth that we have like 4 of. And I remember saying to my sister, if I put this under my pillow, the tooth fairy will take it and we'll get money, it'll be great. And so I put some under my pillow, and I'm assuming my sister did the same because she reminded me of this. Woke up the next morning, remembered the plan, looked under the pillow, plastic 50p piece. My mum was a genius. She'd heard us plotting this master plan to con the tooth fairy out of her money, and she'd snuck off and found some plastic money and hid it under our pillows. And I just thought, what a great trick. She got us good. I don't really have anything that I kind of tell my kids. I've mentioned before that Bosco gets worried about ghosts, and I've told him that the dog keeps them away, when I should have just told him they don't exist. And I think he's to a point now where he knows they don't exist. We just use the stuff that's real, that's there. We get the phone to Santa out, and I've got him on my phone, and when I text him, he responds and tells me what's what, and they can see on my phone that it's Santa that's saved in there. The contact says Santa. He responds with whatever he needs to say that helps me out. And sometimes we get him to call us, I've heard you've been naughty boy, or I hear you've been really good, and he talks them through it. But that's not always enough. Using those real life tools, that gets so far, that gets them to normal kid level. We have a great thing here. I think I've talked about this before, where our local rugby club comes around raising money. And I've sort of explained to Lampup and Bosco so that they can raise money to feed the reindeer so they can fly around the world, because Santa comes, he's been towed by a Land Rover. So they asked me where the reindeer were, and I said, well, that's the point of this. The reindeer are all resting up, they need to buy magic food. We give them the money, they go buy the food, Santa flies around the world. It all works perfectly. I did explain to Lampup that it's always a process. We always see Santa. Usually we go visit my mum and dad down in Essex. We see Santa at a garden centre. We fill him in on how she's behaved, and then they come up here, and usually their nan up here takes them to another garden centre where we talk to Santa and give him the intel as well. We may go and see him one more time if he's not quite sure. Then he does the rounds raising the money. We give him some money. I have another chat with him, check it's all okay. I'm always keeping in touch with him via text and phone. And then obviously at Christmas, he'll give them the presents that, they've deserved throughout the year. So if they didn't get stuff, it's probably because of something they did. If they did get stuff, good on them. So far they've been all right. They've managed to get presents every year, which is a very good run. I've told them about the time that a friend of mine didn't, and was, obviously very devastated. I also like to tell Fosco, this one is a bit mean actually, it's 100% true, of course, if he's listening, it's definitely true, but there's a dungeon in Deepim, the real one, where they used to chain people up to be taken off to prison in the 1800s. And I explained to him that is where they put children who keep misbehaving at school, and the bit at the top that looks like a funnel, that's where they put through some sort of ironic punishment. Now, it can be something like poo, vomit, whatever, but the really naughty kids, they put goblins in there, and the goblins will peck at them, peck at their feet, peck at their eyes. He's now convinced that if he doesn't, buckle up and fly straight, or whatever the phrase is, then goblins will peck him in this dungeon. And we pass that dungeon every time we go for a drive playing Pokemon. It's next to a church. It probably appeared on one of Kev's videos with Andy over the years, because they go to the same church quite often to have a look round, and this dungeon is just next to it. It's very small. It's actually, I think, on our town logo, but I was telling him about James, the boy I went to school with, who ended up in the dungeon, and his eyes were just like so wide with just, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. When his headmaster calls me and talks to me, I'm always like, oh, he mentioned the dungeon again. He said he might have to do it. It's not up to me. If it's up to me, then, you know, but it's not even up to the head. It's up to the people above him. His bosses, they're keen to stick you in, but me and your head are saying, no, you can behave. I feel like mine are a bit more, I can't think of the right word, evil, maybe. I don't feel like they're having the same effect as, I don't know that in 15 years they'll be telling stories about it on their vlogs. They may be telling a psychologist about it maybe, but who knows. It does work. It is good. I'm quite proud of them actually, how they're behaving at the moment, but I lack the cool imagination that my mum and dad had. I'm trying to think what other stuff they said. My sister would have had loads, but she didn't respond to my text before I started recording, so you got the 3 I came up with off the top of my head. I think there was 3. I've only got 2 written down here. Well, anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there because I can't think what the third one was, and I've drawn an absolute blank like an idiot. But I'll have to do another one of these in future. I'm sure there's other stories that we were told, or other lies, other bits that made us believe. I mean, my mum got me out of every naughty thing imaginable by telling me stuff. She exaggerated every bit of connection to, like, I don't know, when I was old enough that people were doing drugs at college or uni, she'd tell me that random relatives were unwell because of drugs they'd done and this sort of thing, and it would turn out that actually they were completely unrelated reasons why they were unwell, but it worked. It made me think, Jesus, if I have one puff of that, I'm going to be, you know, broken forever and all these things. And yeah, it's quite funny thinking that it worked. I suppose mums are better at that. It's on my wife to come up with them. As a side note, before I do wrap up, I keep having this internal, I don't know whether to call her my wife or Kirsty or by her real name. And I asked her yesterday, and she said, just call her Kirsty. I think I've probably said her real name on the vlog before, but considering she works in social work, she has a bit of a public-facing job, it's probably better that I don't reference her by name ever. It's not the end of the world if I do, but she's Kirsty now. I think she just prefers having a nickname. I've been Steve for so long now that she's just like, yeah, Kirsty's fine. But if you notice me ever pause before I'm saying it, or if I say my wife a lot, it's because my brain's just like, what name do I say? Which I get every time I go in Starbucks and they say, what name is this coffee under? I just freeze. It's such a weird thing having so many names. Yeah, I can't. I'll never get that used to it. If I could, I don't know why I don't just say Steve all the time. I'm so used to using it now that I should just say Steve and leave it at that. Anyway, that's your lot. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe in the corner. I realised that I'm so far away from my 1,000 that I was hoping to get in the first 100 videos that it's just not going to happen. I mean, thank you very much for those who have subscribed. It has been continuously going up, which is lovely. I feel very happy with the amount I do have because, let's face it, I'm still very new at this and I've got a decent amount of subscribers, but I don't know what I was thinking, like hoping for 1,000. I might try and come up with some ideas. I've put a few feelers out to some contacts at companies that I've previously worked with in the hope that I can maybe get some competitions going or something, just to say thank you to people that watched, to generate some more. But I don't know, we'll see what happens with that. I don't really want to inflate it artificially, but it was just more of something popped into my head earlier. I saw an opportunity, I've asked about it, we'll see what happens. They'll probably say no because I haven't responded yet, and it's like half a day since I asked, so meh. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing, those who have. Please subscribe to those who haven't. And yeah, I'll catch you tomorrow. Have a great weekend.